Next, elsewhere. The tools ensures our line are straight and our angles are precise. Now, let's talk about ruler. Simple but essential tool. Next, French curve. Help us create smooth curved lines. Then marker and pencil, using to mark or marking design. Next, scissor. We use for cutting fabrics, papers, and other materials. Lastly, our drafting paper. And that's all the tools we'll be using. Let's proceed for taking body measurement.
First, shoulder. Measure across your shoulders from one shoulder tip to the another. Always take down note the measurement. Second, the chest or bust. Wrap the measuring tape around the fullest part of your chest. Waist. Measure around your natural waistline. This is usually around the narrowest part of your body. Next, length of polo. Measure from the base of the neckline at the center back of the shirt down to the desired length of your polo shirt. Next, the armhole. Measure around the armhole starting from the top of the shoulder, curving around the armpit, and ending at the starting point. Sleeve length. Measure from the center back of your neck, over your shoulder, and down to your wrist. This will give you the length of your sleeve. Lastly, the neck. Measure around the base of your neck. This will help determine the neckline size and shape. First pattern is polo front bodies. First, draw a perpendicular line. Mark the intersecting point as A. Horizontal line as shoulder line and vertical line as center line. A to B, 1/2 of armhole measurement. Square out. A to D, 1/2 of shoulder measurement. B to E, 1/2 of shoulder measurement. Connect D to E with a straight line or ruler. B to F, 1/4 of bust or hip circumference. Choose bigger size. C to G, 1/4 of bust, hip circumference. Choose bigger size. A to A1, 4 inches depth of neck. A to A2, 3 inches width of neck. Connect A1 to A2 with a French curve. D to D1, 1 1/2 inches drop of shoulder. E1, center of D1 and E. Connect E1 to F with French curve. Connect A1 to A2 with a French curve. A2 and A3, 1 inch down. D1 to D2, 1 inch down. Connect A2 to D1 and connect A3 to D2. Polo back bodies. Draw a perpendicular line, mark the intersecting point as A. A to B, 1/2 of armhole measurement, square out. A to C, length of polo measurement, square out. A to D, 1/2 of shoulder measurement. B to F, 1/4 of bust or hip circumference, choose bigger size. B to F, 1/4 of bust, hip circumference, choose bigger size. C to G, same of B to F. A to A1, 1 inches depth of neck. D to D1, 1 1/2 inches drop of. A to A2, 3 inches width of neck. Connect A1 to A2 with French curve. Connect A2 to D1 with a ruler. E1, center of D1 and E. Connect E1 to F with French curve. Next for color. First, color fall. Draw a perpendicular line, mark the intersecting point as A. A to B, width of color fall measurement, square out. A to D, length of color fall measurement. B to C, length of color fall measurement. D to D1, 1/2 measurement, right side. D to D2, 1/2 measurement, upward. Connect A to D2 and C to D1 with a straight line using a ruler. Darken line A, D2, D1, D, B, A. Draw a broken line 1/2 inches as allowance of your color. Next, a color stand. A to B, width of color stand measurement, square out. A to D, length of color stand measurement. B to C, length of color stand measurement. C to C1, 1/2 inch upward. D to D1, 1/2 inch upward. D1 to D2, 3/4 inch inward. E1 is center of A and D. E2 is center of B and C. Connect E1 to D2, D2 to C1, C to E2 with a ruler. Darken line A to E1, D2, C1, E2, B, and A. For sleeve, draw a perpendicular line. Mark the intersecting point as A. A to B, sleeve cup height measurement, square out. A to C, length of sleeve measurement, square out. A to D, 1/2 of armhole measurement. Measure diagonally from A to line B. Connect point A to D with a straight line. Divide line A to D into 4 equal parts. First part mark as 1A, third part mark as 1B. Connect point A to A1 to middle part. From middle part to 1B to D with French curve. C to E, 1/2 of sleeve girth measurement. Connect D to E with a straight line with a ruler. Darken line A, B, C, E, D, 1B, midpoint 1A, A.